Please take your seats. Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to all those who have joined us online. So, friends, last time when we finished, we were talking around ethics. So, let's continue that discussion. Now, look here. There is a topic mentioned in our syllabus, and the topic reads as ethics in human actions. Now, what do we understand by the term human action, and how human action is different from acts of man? So, look here very carefully. This is the first important concept of the day, and the concept is human action. What is human action? Is every action of human being a human action? Well, the answer is no. Only those actions performed by man constitute as human action which are deliberately performed. Those actions which are deliberate in nature, only those actions are human actions. Now, what are undeliberate actions? Undeliberate actions are those actions which human beings performed without the investment of their intellect and will. It means they do not apply their mind or their brain while they are performing those actions. But nevertheless, those actions are also performed by human beings. Like, say, for example, you're watching the television and suddenly there is a mosquito which sits on your hand. You are engrossed in a particular show, but you do this. You kill the mosquito automatically. Do you understand that? Now, did you invest a lot of thought and willpower that yes, now you motivated yourself that I have to kill this mosquito, and then you made a detailed plan? Suppose you prepared some pie charts and graphs for that, and then you performed that action? No. But it was nevertheless performed by you. Do you understand that? So there are some actions which we perform without the investment of intellect or will completely, or these actions are undeliberate in nature. Such actions are known as acts of man. So there is a difference between human action and acts of man. Human actions are those actions which we perform with the investment of our intellect and willpower. It means you think about it, you want to do it, and you plan for doing it. Do you understand that? That is human action. Now look here very carefully, my dear friends. The concern of ethics is always human action and not acts of man. Do you understand that? Because acts of man could be just physiological actions like walking, sleeping, humming. These are all acts of man. But when they are done with a purpose in mind, when they are done with the investment of intellect and willpower, they become human action. And ethicists or moral philosophers and lawyers or judges, they are always interested in human action. Human action seems to be the starting point not only in moral philosophy but also in law. See, judges also ask this question first: what did he do? What did he do? And when he committed that action, was he in his senses? Was it done with the investment of intellect or will or not? Do you understand that? So human action happens to be the starting point also in legal discussions. First, judges, jurists, lawyers, they check the human action, and following that, its legality or illegality. Similarly, ethicists or moral philosophers also first take a look at human action, and following it, its morality or immorality. I hope you remember that ethics was nothing but a set of standards and principles which a society or organization places over itself, and in the light of which human actions are judged. Remember, I never said acts of man are judged. Human actions are judged. Now, let us have two scenarios. First scenario goes something like this. Look here very carefully. Suppose there is a clerk who is working in a bank. Let's call it a public sector bank. And one day, there is an armed robbery in that bank. Some robbers, they enter the bank, put a gun on the head of the clerk and say, hand me over all the passwords and important banking data. The clerk does that because he is stricken with fear. He fears that his life will be taken if he does not follow the command of the robbers. Do you get it? That is case 1. Case 2 is, suppose there is a software engineer is working in a company. Let's call it company A. And this software engineer has access to some important documents, some important codes, or some important softwares. Do you understand that? They are very, you can say, very confidential in nature, these kind of softwares. And this software engineer, he goes into a secret pact with, say, the management of another company, company B, which is a rival for company A. And he says that I will hand over to you people our important code, which we are planning for our next project. And I will be giving you that code in lieu of some money. Give me some favors, and I'll just pass the code of my company to your company. Now, which of them is human action? What do you say? The action of the clerk or the action of the software engineer? Software engineer. Why? Because the action of the clerk is not flowing from the intellect or will. Acts of man could be physiological actions. Acts of man could also be driven by impulse. They could be driven by habit. They could flow out of an important emotion, like say for example fear, or say for example anger. So these are acts of man. You cannot judge the ethics around an act of man. Do you understand that? Ethics is always judged around human action. And what are human actions? Human actions are all such actions performed by human beings which are performed with the investment of intellect and willpower. So the topic in the syllabus is ethics in human action. समझ में आ रहा है? It's not acts of man. So give a heading: human action versus acts of man. Human action versus acts of man. Human action versus acts of man. Now under this, write bullet wise. First bullet: the major focus of ethics. The major focus of ethics is on human actions. The major focus of ethics is on human actions. Put a full stop. This also, put a comma, happens to be the starting point. This also happens to be the starting point for most legal systems. For most legal systems. Put a comma. They are primarily interested in human action. They are primarily interested in human action. And following that, put a comma, in its legality or illegality. In its legality or illegality. So lawyers and judges, they also check human actions. They are not bothered with acts of man. And the same logic goes for moral philosophers as well. And when I say moral philosophers, it means they are studying what? Ethics. Because the other name for ethics is moral philosophy. Next point, right? It must be noted that ethics is always checked. Ethics is always checked for human actions. For human actions. Put a semicolon and write, in other words, ethics always focuses. In other words, ethics always focuses on deliberate human actions. On deliberate human actions. And does not concern itself with acts of man, and does not concern itself with acts of man. Next point, acts of man. Put the words acts of man in single inverted comma. Acts of man may not be willfully, W-I-L-F-U-L-L-Y, willfully, comma, deliberately, and consciously done. Willfully, deliberately, and consciously done. Put a comma. But they are done by man nevertheless. But they are done by man nevertheless. Next point. Acts of man are instinctive. Acts of man are instinctive. Put a full stop. They are driven by impulse or habit. They are driven by impulse or habit, and are often performed under circumstances of ignorance, passion, or habit. Ignorance, passion, or habit. Put a full stop. Continue. Physiological actions. Physiological actions like walking, humming, sleeping, sitting, etc. Walking, humming, sleeping, sitting, etc. are examples of acts of man. Are examples of acts of man. Next point. Acts of man are those actions that are performed by men, without being master of them, through their intellect or will. Next point. Human actions are deliberately performed. Human actions are deliberately performed with the investment of intellect and will. Intellect and will. Now look here. Scholars generally make a distinction between acts of man and human actions. So human actions are referred to as actus humanus, whereas acts of man are referred to as actus hominis. Now look here. Everybody can be a Homo sapien sapien, but not everybody is a human being. Do you understand that? Only when you will have some morality, some sense of humanity, then only you will become a human being. So actus humanus is human action, and actus hominis is acts of man. Do you understand that? And ethics is always concerned with actus humanus and not actus hominis. समझ में आ गया? So make a star and write. The distinction here is what scholars call as actus humanus. Change the ink and put into single inverted commas. Actus humanus. In bracket you write deliberate actions. Deliberate actions. Close the bracket. And actus hominis. And actus hominis. In bracket you write undeliberate actions. Undeliberate actions. Close the bracket. Put a full stop. And then drop your pen. And look here. So we are trying to understand ethics in human actions. But ethics तो बाद में समझेंगे, पहले यही समझ लेते human action क्या होता है. So we understand that human actions are all those actions performed by human beings which are performed with the investment of intellect and willpower. If there is no investment of intellect and willpower, it becomes an act of man. Acts of man are mostly instinctive in nature. They are undeliberate in nature. They could be physiological actions, but they are nevertheless performed by human beings. An act of man, can it ever become a human action? Any act of man. Let's take an act of man like say humming. Humming, जैसे गुनगुनाते हैं लोग. So humming is an act of man. Can it become a human action? Can it become a human action? What will make it a human action? The purpose of the person who is humming and the situation in which he is humming. Now think of this. Suppose there is an angry mob chasing a person and they are after the life of the person. The person has taken refuge behind a curtain. And now the mob asks you angrily, where is that person? And you don't say anything, but you just do this. This is what you do. You just hummed, right? But is your action now a human action? Because you understand that the mob, if they get hold of the person, they may injure the person. Do you get it? So an act of man may become a human action if there is a purpose in mind and there are circumstances that make it a human action. Got it? So write a note. An act of man may become a human action. An act of man may become a human action if the performer of the action has a purpose in mind, if the performer of the action has a purpose in mind, and there are circumstances that transform the act of man. There are circumstances that transform the act of man into human action. Act of man into human action. तो चलो यहाँ तक तो बात clear हो गई that there is something called actus humanus and there is something called actus hominis, and ethics is bothered with actus humanus or human actions. Now the next debate that arose in ethical circles was what actually constitutes a human action. It means what are the parts of a human action, or when can we say that an action is a human action? One important scholar that we will introduce today in the class is in this context, and his name is Saint Thomas Aquinas. He's a philosopher, a theologian. नाम से समझ में आ रहा है, saint लग रहा है मतलब. He's a theologian also. He's a writer, philosopher, and theologian. Now, Saint Thomas Aquinas, he wrote a book that is known as Summa. Theologica. And in that book, he said that if these three conditions are met, then the action is a human action. Now, what are these three conditions? First, he says that the person who is performing the action must have some knowledge about the action. Do you understand that? He is not saying complete knowledge about the action, but some knowledge about the action. So there is an element of knowledge. Second, the action must flow from the will of the person. It means the person should not be forced by anyone to perform the action. He should do it voluntarily. So there must be some voluntariness involved in performing the action. And third thing, it says that the action must be performed with freedom. Now, voluntariness and freedom, how are they different? Voluntariness means you are not being coerced, you are not being forced, you are not under any kind of duress to perform the action. But you perform the action because you want to perform the action. The action is flowing from your will. There is volition involved in the performance of the action. Freedom means that you have the choice of not performing also. Do you understand that? And yet you have performed it. It means you have performed it with some sort of freedom. We'll understand the difference between voluntariness and freedom as we go along in more detail. But look here, it was St. Thomas Aquinas, a philosopher, theologian, writer, who in his book Summa Theologica said that if these three conditions are met, then the action is a human action. And what are these three things? The person who is performing the action must have some knowledge about the action. Second, the action must flow from the will of the person. He should not be forced by anyone to perform the action. And the action must be performed with free will, or there should be freedom involved. It means the person thinks that he has the choice of performing or not performing the action, and he knows that he has the choice of performing or not performing the action, and he is or he is not performing the action. Do you understand that? That is freedom. To understand these three things, let's take an example. Think of this. Now, unfortunately, in several weddings, you might have seen this, that people will take wild gunshots in the air. In some parts of the country, you will see that that's a prevalent practice. Wild gunshots are fired in the air. Now, the person who is firing the gunshot, if he has the knowledge that this bullet may go haywire, may hit anyone, and can cause injury to someone, could also be fatal for someone, then the person can be held liable for the murder of a person. Do you understand that? But if you give the gun to a child who does not know what harm the bullet can do, and if he takes wild gunshots, you cannot hold the child ethically wrong. Do you get it? So there must be some knowledge that should be involved. And if you are in the possession of some knowledge, then you can be held liable for the action, and your action becomes human action. Voluntariness. Voluntariness means the person who is firing the gunshot, he is firing it because he wants to do it. It's not because his friends are telling him to do it. It's not because the family members are telling him to do it. It's not because the bride or the groom is telling him to do it. But he is doing it because he wants to do it. Do you understand that? So there is willpower involved. Now, what is freedom? See, most of the people, they feel that all the things that they are doing in their life, they are doing it with freedom. But let me lift this curtain of ignorance. Most of the times, the things that we do in our lives, we are made to do it by someone else. Do you understand that? Either you are completely a slave of one particular ideology, or you are fully inspired by one person, or otherwise. Most of us do not have freedom. Most of us will not have freedom. Most of us can never understand freedom because we have allowed ourselves to become pawns and puppets in the hands of the society. Everything that we do is externally programmed. Remember yesterday I said that let me work in silence so that my Lamborghini can make some noise. Now, if that kind of thing is feeded in your head all the time, you start associating success with the Lamborghini. But is success really a Lamborghini? Is that the definition of success in life? That could be one of the manifestations of your wealth. That's it. Or your, say, liking, that you like sports car, fancy cars, luxury cars, etc. But that cannot be a parameter of success in your life. Think of this. Suppose there is a thief. Now, this thief has been encircled by people in a village. The rule of that village is that if anybody is found guilty of theft, then that person will be beaten with lathis till the time he dies. That's the rule of the village. Do you understand that? Now, this rule has been made by the elders of the village. And while making this rule, they were of the thought that this will instill fear in the hearts of prospective thieves. Do you understand that? Or potential thieves. Therefore, nobody will steal. But suppose this person, let me call him as X. X has actually stolen something. And he is caught red-handed, is encircled by the people of the village. And as per the rule of the village, now everybody is standing with a lathi. And they are ready to beat the person to death. That is what they are about to do. Now imagine that you are also one of the residents of the village. And you also have a lathi. And you see suddenly that the person who is a thief, he is on his knees and is pleading for his life. He's saying that, please spare me. And anyhow, I have only stolen a chair from somebody's house. So please spare my life. Do not do this to me. But others say that this is the rule of the village. That anybody who is found guilty of theft must be beaten to death. And you cannot be an exception to this rule. Hence, you will also meet the same fate as other thieves have met before you. Now you are standing with the lathi in your hand. Ask your conscience. This person has just stolen a chair from somebody's house. Can you give your lathi blows on him? Will you be able to do that? How many of you will be willing to do that now? Raise your hands. Nobody will be willing to do that now. Do you get it? Because here, I made you aware from the very beginning of the case. Now just imagine the real world scenario. In the real world scenario, you were just going past and you were going past on a bike with your friends. Suppose there were two of your friends and you were driving, though this itself is illegal. But suppose you were going something like this, right? And suddenly your friends say, ruk ja, kuch ho raha hai yahan par. And then you climb down and you see that everybody is standing with a lathi and they are saying that we are going to beat this person because he is a thief. आज यहाँ चोरी की है, कल तुम्हारे घर भी चोरी कर सकता है, मारो इसको. So suddenly some people give you lathis also, your friends also. Your friends anyhow become excited and they say, let's practice all kinds of stunts that we have learned so far in our lives. And they push you also into that menace. And you also give 2-3 blows. Do you understand that? And then you go back on your bike, go to a nearby dhaba, sit with your friends, and you talk about justice and how it was delivered. Most of the time, this is what happens in our lives. We are controlled by an external programming. अभी आप इस सिचुएशन में थे. पहले केस में आपने क्यों नहीं किया? क्यों अपने लाठी हाथ में लेकर उस आदमी को नहीं मारा? Because if the society is a box, you were not in the box. You were outside the box. Have you heard about thinking out of the box? This is thinking out of the box. You understand basic principles of justice. Forget about the nature of his crime. White chair. He could be a murderer, a rapist, a heinous crime also. But should justice be delivered on the roads? Or justice should be delivered in the law courts? Law courts. Then why we are having a civilized society? If everybody can move around with a lathi in his hand and decide what is right and what is wrong and deliver justice at the drop of the hat on the road, then what is the need of having this magnificent judicial system? What is the need of having the institutions? What is the need of having police? What is the need of having IPS? We would not require any of that. There will be parallel systems of justice. There will be parallel institutions that will deliver justice. And everybody will define justice in a way that suits them. Do you get it? So most of the people, they have voluntariness, but not all will have freedom. Who has freedom? Now this is an important question. Who has freedom? Even Aquinas also asked this question. Who has freedom? But Swami Vivekananda answers it. One who is awakened will have freedom. What is awakenedness? Awakening, what is awakening? Awakening is when you actually understand the situation. You evaluate the situation in an impartial and in a neutral manner. You understand the principles of justice and then you follow the contract of the society. Do you understand that? Or the social contract, whatever it is. So even animals have volition, but they are not sentient beings. Like, so for example, a tiger. A tiger by nature is ferocious. A tiger arranges its daily meal by indulging into violence, isn't it? The tiger has to indulge into violence to feed itself. Now the tiger is actually a slave of his hunger, isn't it? A tiger is a slave of his hunger. Does the tiger ever fast by choice? Tigers, animals, they do not fast, they starve. Do you understand that? Starving is something different than fasting. Starving is that you want to eat, but you are not getting the food to eat. But human beings, they fast. They fast for, say, religious or other reasons also. Say, for example, for their health reasons also. So sentient beings can only have freedom. And who are sentient beings? Those who are awakened. Those who are not pawns and puppets of the society. Those who can take decisions on the basis of their intellect and their willpower. Those who are not subjected to any kind of external programming. Do you get it? So many people feel that they are free, but they are not free. और अब आप खुद भी सोच कर देख लेना अपने बारे में कि कई बार आपने कुछ ऐसी बातें की हैं या ऐसे काम किए हैं जो आपको लगता है कि आपने सही किया है. But now go back and review that and you will find out that somebody else was planning all of that for you. Do you get it? Do you get it? So write down. Write in the form of a question. What constitutes human action? What constitutes human action? What constitutes human action? Now, under this, first write an opening statement and always change the ink for the name of the scholars. Saint Thomas Aquinas. Saint Thomas Aquinas. In bracket, you can write Italian philosopher, theologian, Italian philosopher, theologian, and jurist. Theologian, philosopher, and jurist. Close the bracket. Put a comma. In his work. Put a hyphen. Again, write in single inverted commas. Change the ink. Summa Theologica. Summa Theologica. Proposed that an action becomes human action. Proposed that an action becomes human action if, human action के बाद comma डालना, if it satisfies the following three requirements. If it satisfies the following three requirements. Three requirements. Put a hyphen after that. And then under this opening statement, you write as A, B, C. A, the doer of the action, the doer of the action must possess, the doer of the action must possess knowledge about the action. Knowledge about the action. Now, how do you define knowledge? What is knowledge? What is knowledge? See, knowledge is, it is familiarity or awareness or understanding. Like say for example, you are familiar with a particular place, so you have some knowledge about that place. You are aware about one kind of political ideology, so you have knowledge about that political ideology. You understand one particular mathematical concept, so you have knowledge about that mathematical concept. So knowledge is nothing but familiarity, awareness or understanding of something or someone. Do you understand that? Can knowledge be practical? Can knowledge be theoretical? So knowledge can be both theoretical and practical. And how can you gain knowledge? You can gain knowledge by learning. You can gain knowledge by observation. This is how scientific knowledge is mostly gained, through experimentation, observation, perception. Perception is like developing viewpoints. What is real and what is ideal. Like say for example, philosophers will mostly gain knowledge through this. When you develop viewpoints, you do not look outwards, but you look inwards. When Buddha was to become Buddha, before that, he closed his eyes. He did not open his eyes wide open. Do you understand that? He closed his eyes because he wanted to look inside, what kind of a person he is. And then through experience, many people gain knowledge through experience as well. Like say for example, you jump the red light and you get a challan, a parking ticket or a speeding ticket, then you gain knowledge about RTO. Do you understand that? उसके बाद लोग जाके पूरा पढ़ते हैं RTO के बारे में, क्या है और क्या नहीं. Do you get it? So knowledge is what? Knowledge is familiarity, awareness or understanding of something or someone. It could be practical or it could be theoretical. It is obtained by learning, observation, perception और experience. ठीक है? तो जो आपने पहला पॉइंट लिखा है A, जो भी आपने लिखा है A, उसके नीचे एक ऐसा बुलेट बनाकर लिख लो. Knowledge is familiarity. Knowledge is familiarity, comma, awareness or understanding about something. Understanding about something or someone. Something or someone. Put a full stop. Knowledge can be theoretical or practical. Knowledge can be theoretical or practical. Put a full stop. Knowledge is acquired through learning, observation, perception and experience. Got it? So this is the first requirement for an action to become a human action. The performer of the action must have some knowledge about the action. Some knowledge, not complete knowledge. Because can anyone claim complete knowledge about something? Can you claim complete knowledge about anything in your life? You cannot. Do you understand that? B, second one. B, the doer of the action must perform the action voluntarily Now, what is voluntariness? What action is a voluntary action? When you do it because you want to do it, that is voluntariness. Now, voluntariness in law or in philosophy is doing something because you want to do it and nobody has forced you to do it. You get it? It means you are not doing it under any kind of coercion or any kind of duress. Duress means force, undue force upon you. Do you get it? Like, say, for example, somebody gives a gun in your hand and you have knowledge about the gun, but you don't want to pull the trigger, but he puts his hand around your fingers and makes you pull the trigger. And as a consequence of that, there is a gunshot and somebody is injured. Can you be held liable for that action morally? Can you be held? No, because you were being forced to do it. Do you get it? So write down. Under this you write, create a bullet and write, voluntariness means the action must flow. The action must flow or proceed from the will. The action must flow or proceed from the will. From the will. Put a full stop. It is will. It is will. Put will into single inverted commas. It is will that enables us to incline or strive. To incline or strive after an object. After an object. Now look here. Some actions flow directly from the will. Like, say, for example, consenting. That would flow directly from the will. Some actions flow indirectly from the will. Like, say, for example, thinking. First, you make up your mind that I need to understand this thing. Then you invest your thought in that, right? So, thinking is indirectly controlled by the will, but consent is directly controlled by the will. So, put a full stop and write in continuation. Some actions proceed directly from the will. Some actions proceed directly from the will. Put a hyphen and write, such as consenting. Such as consenting. Put a comma. While others indirectly through. While others indirectly through other faculties. Indirectly through other faculties commanded by the will. Other faculties commanded by the will. Put a hyphen and write, such as thinking. Such as thinking. Put a full stop. The will is the cause of human actions. The will is the cause of human actions. Put a full stop and continue. In law or ethics, voluntariness is a choice made as opposed to coercion or duress. Coercion or duress. Now, let's talk about the third element. C, you write, the doer of the action must perform the action with freedom. अब देखो, फ्रीडम और वॉलंटरीनेस में क्या फर्क है? वॉलंटरीनेस इज विल, फ्रीडम इज फ्री विल. Even animals have volition. A tiger, say for example, wants to hunt and therefore hunts. Does the bear forces the tiger to hunt? The tiger hunts because it wants to hunt. But the tiger has no other option. The tiger is a slave of its hunger. Do you understand that? It is not a sentient being. It is not awakened. Has the tiger attained nirvana? No. Do you understand that? So देखना बहुत सारे aspirants होते हैं, वो पढ़ते पढ़ते एक टाइम के बाद उनको भी निर्वाण मिल जाता है. They become awakened. और जब वो awakened हो जाते हैं तब उनका selection हो जाता है. समझ में आया? When they understand that we should not do things which others are also doing. Because if you keep on doing the same things as others are doing, and your efforts are completely neutralized. You have to do something else. Means, ऐसे सोच कर देखो. But I'm not encouraging this, just for the sake of an example. There are some fantasy cricket game sites or gaming apps. So you make a team of your own. Now, if you make a team which is very predictable and everybody else has also made the same team, chances of winning are very less. But if you make a team where which is very different from others, there is a chance that you may win. Do you get it? That is freedom. Freedom of thinking otherwise. Most of the people, they do not possess that freedom. They think in a prototype. They feel that this is what is best for me. But with time, they understand that it was not best for them. So write down. Under this bullet wise, you write. First bullet, freedom refers to the existence of free will. Freedom refers to the existence of free will. Put a full stop. Although some actions are voluntary, not every voluntary action is free. Not every voluntary action is free. Put a full stop. Nobody actually has free will. Nobody actually has free will unless he or she is awakened. Awakened. Put a full stop. An individual may think that he has freedom. Put a comma. But in reality, such freedom could just be an illusion. Such freedom could just be an illusion. Now look here. If we look at the Indian society, you'll find most of the times this is the choice basket that you have as a student. Engineering, medical science, or say law, chartered accountancy. Most of you will find yourself in one of these brackets. It's not necessary that you are today an engineer or not, but maybe you have tried for engineering once in your life. Do you understand that? Now, उसके बाद अगर कोई बच्चा बोलता है कि मैंने इंजीनियरिंग चूज किया, तो आप समझ लो वो चॉइस कितना फ्री था. आप समझ रहे हो? वो फ्री नहीं है चॉइस. अगर आपने इंजीनियरिंग चूज किया था और आप इंजीनियरिंग में इतने खुश थे, तो आप यूपीएससी की प्रिपरेशन क्यों कर रहे हो? Do you understand that? If engineering is what motivates you every day, then you should go for Indian engineering services. It means engineering was just a step to attain something higher. Most of the people, they become slaves of what? They become slaves of prestige. They're looking for this, or money, or both. And they define the parameters of their success in the light of these values because society says this is success. Socrates was a homeless person. Can you understand? He was a homeless person. But that doesn't mean that philosophy always resides in poverty. Gautam Buddha was technically a king. He was about to become a king. Do you understand that? So it's not necessary that poverty is the condition which is necessary for the generation of philosophy. Do you get it? So many people, they define their success around these two terms: prestige or material progress. You get a home, you get a car, you get all those kind of things, then you are successful. Today, there is a blur line between success and fame. Ravan is also very famous. Do you understand that? Osama bin Laden is also very famous. But will you call their fame as success? Would you want to emulate that in life? So today you would see many people, they are actually chasing fame and they misquote it as success. That I'm looking for success in my life. I'm a successful YouTuber. No, you are a famous YouTuber. You will become a successful YouTuber only when your content will have a positive impact on the lives of the people and will cause some qualitative improvement in their everyday living. Then you will be a successful YouTuber. Do you understand that? You can just be a famous YouTuber, but not a successful YouTuber. You can be at best an entertainer, but you are not successful. Do you get it? Next point. You write next bullet. उसी में लिखना दूसरा bullet. Volition is the embryonic stage. Volition is the embryonic stage. जैसे embryo होता है, embryonic stage of free will. Volition is the embryonic stage of free will. Put a full stop. Free will is something most people do not have. Free will is something most people do not have. Put a comma. Can never have, and cannot possibly understand, because they have allowed themselves, to become pawns, P-A-W-N-S, pawns, and puppets, for other people, or society at large, Put a full stop. Most people are in fact submitted to external programming. Most people are in fact submitted to external programming. Next bullet. Free will is the blossoming. Free will is the blossoming. Blossoming का मतलब जैसे फूल खिलते हैं वैसे. Free will is the blossoming of volition. Into sentience. Volition into sentience. Put a hyphen and write the ability to make choices. That are not programmed into a person. The ability to make choices that are not programmed into a person. So what is sentience? Sentience is thinking out of the box. तो कहीं margin में आप लिख लो अपनी understanding के लिए. Sentience equals to thinking out of the box. Sentience is thinking out of the box. Put a full stop and continue that point that you were writing. Everyone has volition. Even animals possess it to some degree. Put a comma, but only sentient beings enjoy freedom enjoy freedom or free will. Freedom or free will. Got it? So that concludes our first topic of the day, which is ethics in human action. So what is human action? Human actions are all such actions which are performed with the investment of intellect and willpower. And St. Thomas Aquinas, the Italian philosopher, jurist and theologian, in his famous work Summa Theologica, tells us that 3 elements make an action a human action. What are they? First, knowledge. Second, voluntariness. And third, freedom. Who will have freedom? Only sentient beings have freedom. Who are sentient beings? Those who are awakened. Those who are not pawns and puppets in the hands of others. Those who can think out of the box. Those who make choices which are not externally programmed into them. They are sentient beings. Do you understand that? So you can understand that every sentient being can be a human being. Do you understand that? But every human being is not a sentient being. Do you get it? Only when you are aware, you become a sentient being. Okay? Any doubts around this topic? Yes. Hmm.
A asks person B on the gunpoint to kill someone else. So person B is having knowledge means he's not acting in forcing physically, but mentally like motivating him on the gunpoint. So to what extent person B is morally wrong if he kills that person?
Okay. Now let's understand his case. He's saying that there are 2 people, A and B, and you're saying that A is holding B at gunpoint. Okay, and it is not a physical force, but any other kind of force. Could also be a fake inspiration, motivation, etc.
In view of that, he said that you will not kill, then I will kill you.
Okay, or suppose you will kill, I'll give you some reward. Anything like that, or somebody else will give you some reward. Do you understand that? And B, suppose, shoots down C. Now, if B's conscience is taken away in this entire process. What is conscience? The ability to differentiate between right and wrong. Suppose B is facing hard circumstances in his life. Say, for example, financial hardship or any other kind of hardship, or suppose emotional hardship, any other kind of hardship. And under that condition, if B kills C, then B would be legally wrong, because anyhow B has indulged into an act of murder. But ethically, A will be more wrong. Do you understand that? I'm not saying that B would be guilt-free ethically, because you said that B has knowledge about the gun. Do you understand that? So B will not be completely free from the ethical guilt, but the weight of ethical guilt would be heavier over A. Do you get it? So when we say coercion, it is not only physical coercion, but other kinds of coercion as well. You understand that? Like, say, for example, suppose there is a government servant who is mandated to sign on a particular file. Now, this mandate flows from, say, for example, the office for which he is working. His duty is to sign those files which come to him on a daily basis. But this one particular file, he is not signing deliberately, he is not signing it. And the whole idea is to extract some money from the beneficiary of the file. मतलब रिश्वत लेने के लिए बिल्कुल तैयार है वो. If you give that bribe, then only he will sign the file. Now this person, suppose, is an old man, he's moving around from office to office for this important file. Suppose it's a file of his pension. Do you understand that? And that's the only source of income for him. Fed up by the unwarranted demands of this one particular official, he gives in finally. Suppose his health breaks down and he gives in. He says that, okay, I want it now. You tell me what I have to do. He says that whatever money you will be getting out of this file, you have to give me 10% of that. So the old man says, okay, take it. Is the old man guilty? Is the old man guilty of paying bribe? Is the old man guilty of paying bribe? There cannot be a complete guilt on the old man. Why? Because although he has knowledge about bribery, he has been forced by the official to do so. It was not a physical force, but it was a kind of, you can say, psychological force. Circumstances were created in such a manner that there was no other option left for the old man. So the official will be booked. Do you understand that? But at the same time, the old man may also face some penalties. Because as a law-abiding citizen, you should not break the law of the land. Do you get it? You cannot circumvent around the law to get your work. Because if the old man can justify this, like say for example, ऐसे सोच कर दो. If you can justify cheating for one question, can you justify cheating for the entire paper? कर सकते हो ना? Like suppose this is the last attempt of one particular candidate. It's a very honest candidate, very honest. And he has declared to his friends, if I go into the civil services, first thing I'll do is I'll submit my salary. I'm not going to take even a single penny from Government of India. I'll give it to the relief funds. I'll not take a single amount of paisa. Also, you see in your day-to-day life that this friend of yours, he is completely helping everybody around. If he has whatever he has in his pocket, he is always willing to help everybody around. But for some reason, he is not qualifying the civil services examination. हर बार गाड़ी जो है मेंस में अटक जा रही है, समझ लो. This is his last mains. Now he has an option to cheat in GS paper 4. देखो कितना ironical है, ठीक है? But if he cheats, he will qualify the examination, he will become an officer and he will do good work for thousands of people. Do you justify his cheating? Do you support his cheating? He will do wonderful work for the weak and vulnerable sections. If he does not cheat, somebody else is going to take his place. And let me tell you the credentials of this person as well. Utterly corrupt. Do you understand that? He is utterly corrupt. वो जैसे वो लोग ऐसा सोचते हैं ना कि IAS मिलेगा तो ये कार्डर मिलेगा, या IPS मिला तो हमको ये कार्डर मिलेगा, ये रैंक आएगी तो ये ऑफिस मिलेगा. आप देखते हो उसके पास एक डायरी पड़ी हुई है, उसमें वो लिखा हुआ है, उसने ऐसा जैसे IAS 5 करोड़, IPS 4.5 करोड़, ऐसा कुछ लिखा हुआ है उसमें. अब मैं नहीं जाना चाहता इसकी डिटेल्स में, बट आप खुद समझदार हो आगे. ऐसा कुछ उसने लिखा हुआ है आगे. अब ये अगर चीटिंग नहीं करेगा तो ये आदमी जरूर जाएगा सिस्टम में, ये 5 करोड़ 4.5 करोड़ वाले. अब बताओ, आप इन्विजिलेटर हो, लेट्स मेक इट अ केस स्टडी. आप इन्विजिलेटर हो, आप चीट करने दोगे उस अच्छे इंसान को? विल यू अलाउ टू डू दैट? हाउ मेनी ऑफ you will allow to do that? Raise your hands. Okay, you are willing to tolerate a devil into the system. You are willing to tolerate a devil into the system. It means you are opening the doors for this person. यही है एथिक्स का प्रॉब्लम. समझ में आ रहा है? कई बार हम बोलते हैं ना, सरकार क्यों नहीं एक्शन लेती? अब समझ में आ रहा है कि कुछ भी लॉ एंड ऑर्डर के हिसाब से ही होना चाहिए. आपके हिसाब से नहीं चलेगा कंट्री. Do you get it? The point is, if you can justify this cheating, then you can justify anything in life. उसके बाद ये भी बोल सकते हो आप कि ये करप्शन तो करता है, लेकिन हमेशा उन लोगों से लेता है पैसा जो खुद करप्ट है. आप यही बोलोगे ना, तो आप IAS बनाने आए हो यहाँ पे कि रॉबिन हुड बनाने आए हो? समझ में आ रहा है? So the next topic that we move to is, it is clearly mentioned in the syllabus, this topic, essence, determinants and consequences of ethics in human actions. देखो जो पहला यूनिट है, which is ethics and human interface, mostly talks about two things: human actions and human values. Got it? So we are in the realm of human action right now. So give a heading: essence, determinants and consequences of ethics. Essence, determinants and consequences of ethics in human actions. Essence, determinants and consequences of ethics in human actions. Now drop your pen and look here. हम क्या करेंगे इस टॉपिक को? हम इसको 3 हिस्सों में तोड़ देंगे: essence of ethics, consequences of ethics in human actions and the determinants of ethics in human actions. तो सबसे पहले हम करेंगे essence of ethics. What do you understand by this word essence? What is the meaning of this word essence? Something that is necessary to make something what it is. That is its essence, or the core attribute of something. That is essence. Do you get that? Now, what is ethics? We all know from our last class that ethics is nothing but a set. Set of what? Standards and principles. And from where these standards and principles have come? Can you tell me the sources? Constitution, law, religion, social norms, customs, traditions, then philosophers, conscience, बहुत सारे sources, right? Now, do you remember that ethics is the science of systematizing, recommending, and defending concepts like right, wrong, good, bad, fairness, foulness, justice, injustice, appropriateness, inappropriateness, etc. Now, what is the essence of ethics? Aim of ethics, क्यों चाहिए हमको ethics? Utility of ethics तो हमको पता है. Utility of ethics is what? Social order, for maintenance of social order. What is the aim of ethics? Now, there was a Roman philosopher. His name, Marcus Tullius Cicero. He has defined the aim of ethics. And the aim of ethics is the essence of ethics. Do you understand that? He says that we want ethics or moral philosophy because we want to attain this state. And what is this? This is summum bonum. अब ये क्या चीज है? Summum bonum. ध्यान से देखो. It's a Latin expression which means the highest good or the ultimate good. This good, it encompasses and houses all other kinds of goods. Do you get it? Let's say, for example, think of this: justice, liberty, sovereignty, fraternity, equality. Are they all good things or bad things? Good things. Do you understand that? Now, if I establish democracy and rule of law, will I be able to get all these things? Will I be able to get all these things? So, democracy and rule of law becomes summum bonum, at least in the constitutional sense. Do you get it? So, there could be highest goods in different arenas of life. Summum bonum is easy to define but difficult to identify. Do you understand that? Summum bonum is very easy to define. It is the ultimate good. It is the highest good. For theologians, summum bonum is nothing but God. God is the ultimate good. Do you understand that? Maybe for someone, summum bonum is justice. For someone, summum bonum could be liberty. Do you get it? Like, say, for example, John Locke, he says summum bonum is liberty. He is the father of liberalism. Do you get it? So, Roman philosopher Marcus Tullius Cicero, he says that the aim of ethics is to attain what? Summum bonum. Do not get confused between summum bonum and Summa Theologica. That's a book. And this is the ultimate good or the highest good, one which encompasses all other kinds of goods. समझ में आ रहा है? So write down, give a heading. अभी जो आपने heading डाला है पूरा, उसके नीचे एक sub heading डालो. Essence of ethics. Essence of ethics. Under this, you write bullet wise. First bullet. In essence, ethics seeks to resolve. In essence, ethics seeks to resolve questions of human morality. Questions of human morality by defining, defending, and recommending. By defining, defending and recommending concepts such as, put a hyphen, right and wrong, put a semicolon, good and bad, semicolon again, virtue and vice, semicolon, justice and injustice, semicolon, fairness and foulness, etc. देखो इसलिए ना कई स्कॉलर्स ने कहा है एथिक्स को द साइंस ऑफ मॉरल ड्यूटी और द साइंस ऑफ आइडियल ह्यूमन कैरेक्टर. रिमेंबर द वर्ड एथिकॉस, इट मीन्स रिलेटिंग टू somebody's character. So next point, you write, next bullet, hence some scholars like to define ethics as, the, put a hyphen and write in single inverted commas, science of moral duty, close the inverted commas, write or again write in single inverted commas, science of ideal human character, close inverted commas, put a full stop. Now you tell me, ethics is a set of standards and principles. Does this set helps you also in organizing your personal life? Does it help? Does the societal ethics also influences your morality? It influences, right? So it helps you organizing your personal life. What about your professional life? Does it help there as well? What about your social life? Yes. Do you understand that? So next point, right? Ethics is a set of moral principles. Ethics is a set of moral principles and standards, by which people conduct themselves. Put a hyphen and write personally, professionally, and socially. Put a full stop. Next point. The aim of ethics is to attain. Summum bonum. Put summum bonum into single inverted commas. Put a full stop. After that, उसके बाद एक छोटा सा heading बनाओ, सब heading, summum bonum. Put a hyphen and write the highest good. Summum bonum, put a hyphen and write the highest good. Under that, you write bullet wise. Summum bonum is a Latin expression. Introduced by the Roman philosopher. Put a hyphen. Now change the ink for writing his name. Marcus Tullius Cicero. Put a comma and write meaning the highest good. Or the ultimate good. Highest good or ultimate good. Next point. Summum bonum encompasses. All other goods. Put a hyphen. It is the final end to be achieved. Now look here. Can I say summum bonum will be different for different scholars depending upon their philosophy? And different scholars might have suggested different pathways to reach to summum bonum. So write it down. Next point. Different philosophers advocate different pathways to reach to summum bonum. Put a full stop. Now look here. आप लोगों को reverse engineering पता है? Do you know what is reverse engineering? Like say for example, you have a machine in your hands. You open that machine and you try to understand its mechanism. That is reverse engineering. और सबने किया होगा बचपन में, at least with the toys. That is reverse engineering. So if I say the answer to the question is ethics, what is the question? समझ में आया मेरा question? ध्यान से सुनो. I'm saying the answer to the question is ethics. What is the question? What is the question? If I say, this is what I'm saying. The answer to the question is ethics. What is the question? Frame the question. What is summum bonum? Ethics is summum bonum. You're saying that. What is the question? Listen very carefully. I'm saying the answer to the question is ethics. What is the question? Why do we need ethics? बताओ. Why do we need ethics? अभी तो लिखा थोड़ी देर पहले. To organize our life socially, professionally, personally. So what is the way to live a good life? Be ethical. Do you understand that? Of all the things that you can be in the world, if you have to choose one, be ethical. Do you get it? कुछ भी बन जाओ, but always you have the option to become ethical. Doctor बन जाओ, ethical doctor. Engineer बन जाओ, ethical engineer. Administrator बन जाओ, ethical administrator. Do you understand that? So ethics answers this big question. And it's a question which is one of the biggest questions in axiology. Remember that? What is the good way to live? What is the purpose of life? Ethics tries to answer all these kind of questions. So write on, next point. Ethics investigates questions like ethics investigates, after that put a hyphen, and then you can write as A, B, C, the questions. What is the best way for people to live? What is the best way for people to live? Question mark. B. What actions are right and wrong? What actions are right and wrong under a given situation? What actions are right and wrong under a given situation? Question mark. C. What character traits a person must develop to live a meaningful life? Person must develop to live a meaningful life? Question mark. Now look here. In order to understand something, one way is to study about that thing. The other way is to study what that thing is not. मतलब नहीं समझ में आया. मतलब ऐसे सोच कर दे. Suppose you want to know about this game, cricket. तो एक तो ये हो सकता है कि एक तरीका ये समझ लो आप, what is cricket and what is not cricket. Like so for example, football is not cricket, volleyball is not cricket, basketball is not cricket, hockey is not cricket. So what is ethics? समझने का ये भी तो तरीका हो सकता है. What is not ethics? Do you understand that? तो ये चार चीजें आप ध्यान से सुनो आप. ethics is not morality. Ethics is not law. Ethics is not religion. Ethics is not following any convention, custom, tradition, etc. Do you understand that? This is the essence of ethics. एक तरीका तो positively समझना हुआ. The essence of ethics is summum bonum. The other way to understand the essence of ethics is what ethics is not. Ethics is not morality. Ethics is not law. Ethics is not religion. Ethics is not following any one kind of convention, practice, custom, tradition, etc. Do you get it? So write down next point. In order to understand the essence of ethics, in order to understand the essence of ethics, it is important for us to understand what ethics is not. What ethics is not. After that, you put a hyphen. Now look here. Look here. Let's try to differentiate between ethics and morality. What are the difference between ethics and morality? First, look here. Morality is the personal compass. Have you seen a navigational compass which shows you direction? Morality is your personal compass, moral compass that gives you direction in your life. Do you understand that? It is your understanding of right and wrong. It is your understanding of good and bad. And do you remember the difference between right and good? Remember that? What is ethics? Ethics is a set. Set of what? Standards and principles which a society or an organization places over itself, and in the light of which human thoughts, motives, choices, actions and behaviors are judged as right or wrong, good or bad. Got it? So morality is related to the individual always, whereas ethics is always related to society or an organization. Do you get it? ये तो पहला difference हो गया. Then, what is the source of ethics? You know, the source of ethics, the main source of ethics, if you see, it is law or religion or social norms, customs, practices, traditions, etc. Because it's a societal thing, so main source is also the society. Law, religion, they all exist where? In the society. Do you get that? But the main source of morality is, though some morality can also flow from religion, but the main source of morality is always the conscience. Conscience can also be the source of ethical principles and standards. But the main source of morality is conscience. The main source of ethics is what exists in the environment of the individual. Got it? Now, look here. Why people decide to be moral? Why people have their own morality? Because they feel it is right thing to do, or they feel that it has some value. What? Morality has some value. That's why people hold on to it. Why people hold on to ethics? Because the society says, the organization says it has value. Do you get it? So the society or the organization says it has value. Why you become ethical? Because the society tells you to become. Why you become moral? Because you want to become. Do you get it? That's the difference between morality and ethics. Now you tell me, which changes more frequently with time and space, ethics or morality? Ethics or morality? Ethics. Ethics changes more frequently with time and space. Like say for example, you are in the Indian society, then from here you go to the American society and you will encounter a altogether different set of ethics. From there, suppose you go to the Australian society, you'll have another set of ethics. Similarly, if you go from one company to another company, you will have different kind of working culture, and that work culture flows from the code of ethics of that company. Do you understand that? So ethics changes very frequently. We change in time and space. आपने ये सुना है, जैसा देश वैसा भेष? सुना है ये? This is mostly true with respect to ethics. जैसा देश वैसा ethics. Do you get it? But morality is relatively stable than ethics. Like say for example, there is one person who feels that consumption of liquor is not good because it does not have any value, it causes damage to health. Suppose this is what this person believes. This person is X. He has lived his whole life in India. Suddenly, he goes for a vacation, and where he goes in, say, USA. What do you think? The moment he will land in USA, he will call for all kinds of brands, liquor brands. Do you think that is what he is going to do? Oh. Do you understand that? But is morality permanent? Is morality permanent? Is morality permanent? Morality also changes. But it takes a long period of time to change your morality. Your morality will change when your underlying beliefs, your values will change in life. Like say for example, this particular person, he always thought that education has an instrumental value. Instrumental value means it is a tool to achieve something else. Like say for example, you get educated so that you can get a job. Generally, this kind of thinking prevails in many minds, that you want to get an education because you want to get a job. कई लोग तो ये भी नहीं पूछते हैं कि आपकी एजुकेशन क्या है, वो पूछते हैं आपकी डिग्री क्या है. सुना है आपने? वो पहले ये सवाल करते हैं कि आपकी डिग्री क्या है, कौन से कॉलेज से है, कितना परसेंटेज है, क्या सीपीआई था, ऐसे सवाल पूछते हैं. इन देयर हेड एजुकेशन हैज अ इंस्ट्रूमेंटलिस्ट वैल्यू, मतलब वो एक इंस्ट्रूमेंट, एक टूल है, उसके जरिए आपको कुछ और पाना. बट इफ यू टॉक टू स्वामी विवेकानंद से फॉर एग्जाम्पल, व्हाट डू यू थिंक? ही वाज स्टडीइंग, और डॉक्टर एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम, they were studying to get a job. Do you think they were studying to get a job? No, they were studying to gain knowledge because they feel that education has a higher value. It doesn't have an instrumental value only. Or Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, what do you think? When he was writing his Gitanjali, did he write it with this thought in his mind that one day I will get Nobel for this? Was this thought ever prevalent in his mind? Maybe not. Do you understand that? Or suppose when Bhagat Singh was fighting for the country, what do you think? This thought was there somewhere in the mind that if the country gets freedom, then there will be big statues of myself. They thought something like that? Never. Do you understand that? Because they had higher values in life. अब lower value लेकर आप खुश हो तो रहो, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? काट दो ऐसी जिंदगी अपनी पूरी. Do you get it? So morality is more consistent than ethics, but morality is not permanent. Morality also changes if the underlying beliefs and the underlying values change, but that change takes time. Like say for example, somebody who has lived his entire life in a traditional society where suppose women are discriminated against both in case of education and jobs, goes into a society where he sees that there is fairness among men and women, he may also develop those kind of values, but with time, not overnight. Do you get it? So morality is not static, but definitely it is more stable when you compare it with ethics, because you take a flight and ethics changes. Morality does not change like that. Got it? तो सबसे पहले ऐसे लिखो, जो लाइन आपने लिखी उसके आगे एक हाइफन डालो और फिर ए ऐसा करके लिखो. Ethics is not morality. Ethics is not morality. Ethics is not morality. अब क्या करो? You divide your page into two columns. On the left hand side you write morality, and here you write ethics. Morality and ethics. अब बुलेट बनाकर लिखते जाना. Under morality, the first bullet, it is an individual's personal compass. It is an individual's personal compass of right and wrong. It is an individual's personal compass of right and wrong. Now go to the column of ethics and write the first bullet. It is a set of standards and principles. It is a set of standards and principles that a society or organization places over itself. That a society or organization places over itself. Now write the second point in the morality column. The major source of morality, is the inherent human conscience. Is the inherent human conscience. Write the second point in the ethics column. Ethics primarily flows from laws, religion, social norms, customs, and traditions. Now come to the morality column again. Write the third point. We stick to our moral principles. We stick to our moral principles because we believe they are right. Because we believe they are right. They are right. Now go to the ethics column and write the next point. We follow the ethical principles because the society or organization, put a bracket and write, of which we are a part, close the bracket, says it is the right thing. Now come to the morality column and write, morality is more consistent. Morality is more consistent than ethics. Morality is more consistent than ethics. Put a comma, although it can change. Although it can change if the individual's beliefs changes. Although it can change if the individual's beliefs changes or change. Beliefs change. Now go to the ethics column and write, ethics is less consistent than morality. Ethics is less consistent than morality. Put a comma. It varies more frequently. It varies more frequently with change in time and space. It varies more frequently with change in time and space. Now go to the morality column again and write, morality is always self-imposed. Morality is always self-imposed and tested in the court of conscience. Morality is always self-imposed and tested in the court of conscience. Come to the ethics column and write, ethics is always imposed and enforced. Ethics is always imposed and enforced by an external institution. By an external institution. Now, okay, the board is gone. Okay, let me discuss it otherwise. See, morality does not require the acquiescence of others in the same way as ethics does. Acquiescence means approval from others, the same way ethics does. Is it possible to be moral alone? Is it possible to be moral alone? But is it possible to be ethical alone? No. You need the society or the organization for that. Do you understand that? So make a star and write. Morality doesn't require acquiescence, ACQUIESCENCE, acquiescence means approval from others, the way ethics does. From others, the way ethics does. Put a semicolon. Ethics is, okay, now look here. Can I say ethics is nothing but summation of morality of everyone? Like, say, for example, suppose he believes that we should not steal. Suppose he also believes in that. He also believes in that. She also believes in that. And everybody believes in that. And suppose we are making an ethical set for this class. Then you should not steal would become an ethical principle. But it is part of individual's morality as well. So ethics is often individual morality writ large. Writ large means written largely. Got it? So put a full stop and continue that point. Ethics is summation of individual morality writ large. Individual morality writ large. Put a full stop. Individual opinions in isolation. Individual opinions in isolation does not affect societal ethics. Does not affect societal ethics. Now look here. A moralist may say that, so what? Everybody else believes in capital punishment. I denounce it because I feel that is ethically or morally reprehensible. But your thoughts on capital punishment may influence but will not regulate or direct society's thought on capital punishment. Do you understand that? There are so many people who feel that capital punishment should be abolished. There are people who feel that capital punishment should continue. So in the society, whether capital punishment will be abolished or will it continue will depend on what? Will depend on the ethics of the society or what most people believe, not what individuals believe. Got it? So put a full stop and continue that. या ऐसे कर लो, एक हाइफन डाल लो, आगे लिखो. A moralist may denounce capital punishment. A moralist may denounce capital punishment even when the entire society supports it. Even when the entire society supports it. Put a full stop. However, whether capital punishment will continue, or not, will be dependent on societal ethics of the time. Will be dependent on the societal ethics of the time. Now, on one hand, we have morality. On the other hand, we have ethics. Tell me one thing. Can a person who is highly ethical at the same time be highly immoral? Listen to the question. I'm saying a person who is highly ethical can at the same time be also highly immoral. Is there a possibility? Like, say, for example, think of this, that this person, he feels that transgenders have no rights. He does not consider transgenders as human beings at all. Do you understand that? But suppose he is working for an NGO, and that NGO works for the protection of the rights of the transgenders. Do you understand that? And why he was working for that NGO? Because he wants to diversify his curriculum vitae or CV. Do you understand that? That's why he is working for the NGO. So every day when he goes to the NGO, he speaks highly about transgenders' rights. But as his speech gets over, he sits on his place and in his mind he laughs. He thinks that I have no respect for transgenders, and he laughs over himself, and yet I have joined this NGO. समझ में आ रहा है आपको? आपने ये सुना है, कई बार लोग बोलते हैं पापी पेट क्या ना करवाए. सुना है आपने ये? हाँ, ये इमोरलिटी है एक तरीके की, लेकिन आप एथिक्स फॉलो कर रहे हो सोसाइटी के. Do you understand that? Like, say, for example, that this person, he does not believe in equality on the basis of, say, gender. He does not believe in that. But he is working for an organization where equality among genders is upheld. So he is forced to behave in a way as if he respects equality of genders. But inside he despises it. He does not like it. He always thinks that one gender is above the other gender. Now this person could belong to any of the genders. So there is a chance that a person who is behaving in an ethical fashion is highly immoral. There is a possibility. Okay, can there be a possibility a person who is highly moral behaves in an unethical fashion? Vice versa true हो सकता है क्या? ध्यान से सुनो. A person who is highly ethical is behaving in an is actually immoral. ये तो हो सकता है, हमने देख लिया. A person who is highly moral is behaving in an unethical fashion. Is there a possibility of that? Is there a possibility of that? If suppose something comes in conflict with your ethics or with your morality, in which case you will be more disturbed? When it comes in conflict with your ethics or when it comes in conflict with your morality? Morality. Do you understand that? Morality is a higher covenant. Covenant का मतलब समझते हो? Agreement. समझ में आया? जैसे कि आपने एक एग्रीमेंट किया है किसके साथ? इंस्टीट्यूशन के साथ या सोसाइटी के साथ, क्या आप उनका एथिक्स फॉलो करोगे? सो दैट्स एन एग्रीमेंट. और एक एग्रीमेंट आपने खुद अपने साथ किया है कि आई विल नॉट ब्रेक माई मॉरल्स. दैट इज योर मोरालिटी. विच इज द हायर कोवेनेंट? Morality. The second agreement is the higher agreement, at least for you. So will you do, if I ask you this question, will you do anything unethical, especially things which are coming in conflict with your morality? Will you ever do something like that? Will you do something like that? It means, my question is, you have an agreement with yourself. That is your moral agreement. That is your morality. Will you go against your morality under any condition? That's my question. It's an agreement made by you, for you, and imposed on you by you. समझ में आ रहा है? डेमोक्रेसी होता है वैसा ही है, समझ लो ये एग्रीमेंट. Will you ever violate your own moral agreement? करोगे क्या कभी? How many of you will do that in any situation? Nobody is going to do that. But we find that people do it all the time. People do it all the time. Why? Why people do it all the time? Let me give you an example. Think of this, that this person does not believe in dowry. He does not believe that dowry should be given in lieu of, say, marriage agreement or whatever. But on the day of the marriage, you see that this person has arranged all the dowry for his daughter. What do you say? Why this person does so? He believes that dowry is wrong. Dowry is immoral. Why he is doing it? To fit into the society. That's it. So people may break their higher moral covenants to fit into a society, because he feels that if he does not give dowry, maybe the society is a very traditional, typical, regressive society which will outcast him, which will not consider him as good. Why he has done so? Do you understand that? So under the force of the other members of the society, he is breaking the code with himself. And that is the gray area of ethics and morality. Do you understand that? UPSC ने एक बार तो पूछा है ये. What is the gray area of ethics and the gray area of morality? Not directly, but in one of the case studies. Do you get it? So write down, give a small subheading, the gray area of ethics and morality. The gray area of ethics and morality. The gray area of ethics and morality. Now under this you write bullet wise. First bullet, a person strictly following the ethical principles, of an organization or society may not have any morals at all. Second bullet, a moral person, although bound by a higher covenant, COVENANT, covenant means agreement, put a comma, may choose to follow a particular code of ethics, just to fit into a system. क्या है इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का काम? Okay. Now see, it's already 4 and we have students also who are doing the class online. So it would be unethical now to take the class any forward, because when we started the class, there was an agreement that they will also be part of this class. So I'm leaving you half an hour